Tonight, our special coverage on Israel's war in Palestine as China reaffirms its support to end the war. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I'm Aisha Ashraf. Today is the 45th day since Israel started its relentless and indiscriminate attack on Palestinians. Qatar's foreign ministry has announced that negotiations between Hamas and Israel for the potential release of detainees are in the final stages. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says there is progress in talks, while the Hamas chief has indicated that a truce deal is approaching. Israeli government officials are currently deliberating on whether to accept the proposed deal. Israel's far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir is opposing the deal. Far-right leaders, including the Jewish Power Party leader and Religious Zionist Party leader, are also against the deal. Israel's bombardment of Gaza continues. Gaza's health ministry says all hospitals in northern and central Gaza are out of operation. The head of a UN organization has reported the death of an employee in Gaza, along with her family members, including a 6-month-old baby. Egypt says Israeli bombardment in southern Gaza is meant to force Palestinians to leave. Leaders of BRICS nations are calling for an immediate, durable, and sustained humanitarian truce in Gaza. As of today, multiple deadly attacks have occurred, targeting the Indonesian hospital and civilian homes. The attacks have caused numerous casualties. At the time of writing, the death toll has exceeded 14,100. On the other hand, 1,200 Israelis have died in Hamas's attack. Israeli officials have proposed the mass displacement of Gaza's civilian population. Israel's Minister of Intelligence, Gila Gamliel, suggests the idea of voluntary resettlement for Palestinians in Gaza to locations worldwide as a humanitarian solution after the war. This proposal has drawn criticism and warnings from Egyptian President and Jordan's King Abdullah II. Both leaders are calling any such potential move ethnic cleansing. Another advisor to the Israeli government, retired Major General Giora Island, has compared Gaza to Nazi Germany. He has called for cutting off essential supplies to ensure a total collapse of Gaza. Last month, an Israeli newspaper reported on recommendations by Gamliel to transfer Gaza residents to the Sinai in Egypt after the war. The recommendations include formation of a so-called humanitarian corridor through which Palestinians would be allowed to flee. It also included the establishment of tent cities in Sinai, southwest of the Gaza Strip, followed by the construction of cities in northern Sinai. The final recommendation suggested Israel establish a no man's land several kilometers deep within Egyptian territory to ensure that Palestinians would not be able to return. China's top diplomat is hosting foreign ministers from 5 Muslim nations in Beijing. The ministers arrived in Beijing yesterday to discuss Israel's war on Palestine. Foreign Minister Wang Yi said China is committed to collaborate with Arab and Islamic nations to end the war. The visiting ministers are from Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, the Palestinian Authority, and Indonesia. During the meeting, the ministerial committee discussed ways to halt military escalation in Gaza, advance the political process towards lasting peace, and hold Israel accountable for violations. Saudi Arabia's foreign minister called for an immediate ceasefire and humanitarian aid entry into Gaza. Wang Yi reaffirmed China's support in resolving the Israel-Hamas conflict. While China has a history of supporting Palestinians, it has also cultivated economic ties with Israel. China's role as a mediator in the Middle East is increasing. Earlier this year, China brokered a peace agreement between Saudi Arabia and Iran. A discussion on a controversial bill to impose the death penalty on Palestinian prisoners has been marred by a heated exchange at the Israeli parliament. The parliamentary committee session saw fierce arguments between Knesset members and the families of Israeli captives held in Gaza. The families say the proposed legislation does not serve any public interest. They say the timing of the discussion may jeopardize the safety of their captive relatives held by Hamas. In response to the clash, Israel's coalition chairman announced a hold on the execution bill pending approval from the Security Cabinet. The bill requires 3 readings for approval. The Israeli army has hit a church in southern Lebanon with artillery shells, causing significant damage to the church building. According to a Lebanese media source, the Israeli army on Monday targeted the St. George Church in the town of Yarun, southern Lebanon. The town is located near the Israeli border. No injuries have been reported. The Lebanese media reports several areas in southern Lebanon also came under Israeli fire from tanks, fighter jets, and helicopters. The home of a Lebanese lawmaker was also targeted. The Israeli army and Hezbollah have been engaged in deadly skirmishes along the border since Hamas's attack on southern Israel. These clashes are the deadliest since the two sides fought a full-scale war in 2006. A group of Canadian members of parliament has arrived in Jerusalem for an unannounced visit. The group consists of 2 liberals, 3 conservatives, and Canadian Jewish leaders. The group is there to demonstrate solidarity with Israel. They plan to meet Israeli counterparts, pay tribute to the victims of the recent Hamas attack, and demand the release of hostages. Among those visiting Israel is Jewish Liberal MP Anthony Housefather. This visit comes amid heightened diplomatic tensions between Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Trudeau's recent call for restraint in Israel's military operations has prompted criticism from Netanyahu. However, Housefather maintains that Canada has been a strong ally of Israel, as reflected in its voting record at the UN. He says there is a need for Canada to show its support for Israel. A group of activists held a protest Monday outside the Global Food Security Summit venue in London, United Kingdom. The protesters demanded an immediate action to address food and water shortage in the besieged territory of Gaza. The summit is being organized by the UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office in London. Activists from advocacy group Medical Aid for Palestinians emphasized the food and water insecurity faced by Gaza's residents. The CEO of the group said 2.2 million people in Gaza are at risk of starvation due to restricted food supplies. During the protest, high-profile UK government representatives, such as Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, were present at the summit. The group's research officer said the agency staff in Gaza is trying to meet the needs of the Palestinian people under, quote, horrific circumstances. The protest follows the publication of an open letter by the group to Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. The letter urges the government to demand an immediate ceasefire. Pro-Palestinian protesters have unfurled a large Palestinian flag on Italy's iconic Leaning Tower of Pisa during a ceasefire demonstration in the historic city. During a massive demonstration in Pisa this past Friday, demonstrators demanded an immediate halt to Israel's intense air and ground assaults on Gaza. Italian media reports 15 students managed to climb the historic tower. Italy, like many other nations, has witnessed a series of pro-Palestine protests in multiple cities across the country. Governments worldwide have taken different stances in response to these protests. France and Germany have taken a more strict approach in handling pro-Palestine demonstrations. Italy's foreign minister has asserted that there is no justification for banning peaceful protests. Thank you for watching. Our news is produced by Muslim Network TV, which is a not-for-profit organization. We need your support for donations. Please scan the QR code on our broadcast or visit muslimnetwork.tv to donate now, so we can continue to amplify the voices of Muslims in Canada and abroad.